In this video, I want to draw attention to an impressive ministry that bears a lot of similarity to my own. It seems to be happening under the leadership of an African American who is much younger than me, but who has also chosen to use graphics and to hide his own face and name in what he produces. At least in the few videos that I've been able to view so far, his message is pretty much spot on. For example, he does a great job of challenging the Hebrew roots lie about Jesus wanting to take us back to the Torah. He recognizes, as we do, that Jesus was bringing in a whole new ballgame. The YouTube channel he uses is called Truthunedited. Listen to what he says about Jesus and the law.
He did not come to destroy the Torah, which is the law, but to fulfill it. Fulfill means to complete. Not one jot or tittle, meaning a tiny part of something, will pass from the Torah until all is fulfilled. So the next question needs to be, did he fulfill the Torah? Now at the time he was speaking, he did not. But after his ministry was completed, after he was crucified and then resurrected, then later ascending, he did fulfill the law. Like he said what he came here to do.
Good, isn't it? And it's almost word for word what I said in my own video on jots and tittles. Please check it out if you haven't already. I mean, check out our video, but check out Truthunedited's video too. They're really good. It would be great to be able to work with someone like this. Now, here is some more of what Truthunedited said in another video on the subject of Jesus and the law.
In John chapter 14, verse 15, Yahshua says something very important, and sometimes it gets confused. He says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." This often gets twisted in different doctrine because you will see many teachers assign the scripture right back to the Torah, the law in the Old Covenant. But Yahshua did not say that. It's important we place scripture based on what it says and not what we like it to say. He did not say, "If you love me, you will keep the Torah." He said, "You will keep his commandments." He has many of them.
Isn't that amazing? Here is a guy using the Hebrew pronunciation of the name Jesus, but he is not using it in the way most Hebrew roots people do, as a front for dragging people away from the real Jesus of the four Gospels and back to the Torah. God bless Truthunedited for that alone. Bring it on! A big part of Truthunedited's audience appear to be Black Hebrew Israelite adherents. This movement, which emerged back in the 1960s, sets out to kind of develop a black pride by teaching that they are, as a race, the true fulfillment of Israel. That they are superior today in much the same way that the Jews want us to believe that their race is superior. So this is what Truthunedited says to them.
But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of Elohim, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. So Israel, please remember that this is you. So when so many of you have pride of him only being for you, ask yourself, is this the same pride as your forefathers that did not receive him? Verse 13 actually clarifies it by saying, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, or the will of man, but of Elohim. So this doctrine of pride in your blood, that Elohim only cares about you, is directly challenged and proven wrong by this passage. Because it's not about blood, but about believing in Yahshua.
Now let me make another attempt to explain why I have 5 or 10 videos on this channel about other ministries. I want to fairly and honestly acknowledge the good that is in any ministry. It's depressing to hear preachers all fighting with each other. Nobody's listening because they all seem to get too much pleasure out of just calling everyone else devils and liars and deceivers. Now, to be fair, I also believe very strongly that there is error in all of these other ministries, but only God can ultimately determine how much of it is coming from genuine confusion on the part of ministers who are otherwise sincere. My main argument is that there is no one, no church, and no preacher today who is teaching people to obey Jesus the way his first followers did in the Bible. And this argument can be illustrated by looking at the absolute best that the church has to offer, and then showing you that each of these guys is still falling short when it comes to actually hearing what Jesus has clearly said. much less obeying it. Part of me says, surely they couldn't have missed it, with all their theological training and all their knowledge of the scriptures. But another part of me says, well, such blindness existed in Bible times, and I myself was blind to all of this for a while. So maybe if I can calmly and rationally point it out, they'll be able to humble themselves and accept the truth that they previously missed. So while I'm saying that the Truth Unedited is incredibly like us, I do have my reservations. I also expect that, like Francis Chan, he'll be far too busy to even consider a criticism coming from anyone who has viewed his channel. You just can't get all that work done while listening to every know-it-all that comes along to tell you that you're going about it wrong. Truth Unedited started his channel about the same time that we started ours, but he didn't start publishing videos in earnest until about 10 months ago. And already he has made close to 100 videos, popping them out at a rate of about 2 videos per week. The quality of his graphics is actually quite high, much better than ours in many cases, so I'm amazed at how he's been able to maintain such a pace. Nevertheless, here's the part that concerns me. I went looking, as I often do, to see if I could find anything from Truth Unedited about actually obeying the teachings of Jesus. As you just heard, he does say that we must keep the commandments of Jesus if we want to convince anyone that we love Jesus, or Yahshua if you like. Now, it took a lot of searching, but I did finally find where he commented on what Jesus said to the rich young ruler about forsaking all. Listen to it. It comes from video number 34 in the History of Religion series, where Jesus is telling the rich young ruler to sell what he owns and give to the poor.
Yahshua said to him, "If you want to be perfect, go, sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come follow me." If he really loved his neighbor as himself and trusted the Messiah, he would have no difficulty giving his wealth to the needy people and following the Messiah.
You don't hear that being taught anywhere today, do you? But immediately after Truth Unedited said that the rich young ruler showed his lack of love for the poor by his unwillingness to give up his wealth in obedience to Jesus, he says this. Listen to it very closely.
Many people like to falsely use these verses to tell you that in order to follow the Messiah, you need to sell all your possessions.
What? Did you hear that? Now, to save time, I left out the part where Peter observes that all of the disciples had done that, and where Jesus says that they will be rewarded for it. Truth Unedited did not edit that out. But now, he is saying that it's more or less bad for someone to falsely, as he puts it, teach people to actually do what Jesus told the rich young ruler and all of his disciples to do. The classic argument is that the rich young ruler had a very special problem that most of us would not have. But of course, Truth Unedited had just read out the context, which noted that all of the disciples had done exactly what Jesus was asking the rich young ruler to do. But more than that, look at the wording on the screen. Here, I'll show it to you once again.
Many people like to falsely use these verses to tell you that in order to follow the Messiah, you need to sell all your possessions.
Forsaking all? Is that what it says? Forsaking all? It's not the kind of word that we would use in modern day Christianity, and not the phrase that was actually used in the passage that Truth Unedited is referring to here. Jesus says, sell what you own. So where did Truth Unedited get that weird phrase, forsaking all? Here it is. It's in the 14th chapter of Luke, where Jesus addresses the entire crowd that followed him. He says, whosoever. Do you hear that word, whosoever? That means anybody, not just rich young rulers, anybody who does not forsake all that he owns cannot be my disciple. So, can Truth Unedited honestly say that he had never heard of that passage when it is precisely the one that he is quoting on the screen? Listen to it again. Jesus says, whosoever does not forsake all that he owns cannot be my disciple. And what does Truth Unedited say in response?
Many people like to falsely use these verses to tell you that in order to follow the Messiah, you need to sell all your possessions.
Did he say many people? Please, Truth Unedited, please, tell me where I can find such people. Because I have searched the whole world over trying to find someone who believes in obeying Jesus, and they just don't exist. Not in any church I've ever attended. And if they did, I feel certain that they would soon be chucked out. So where are these many people? Now, I don't want to exaggerate my own ministry, but just about everything that has ever been preached anywhere in the history of the church is out there on YouTube somewhere. So just give me a link to all these people who are falsely, is that what you said? Falsely teaching people to do exactly what Jesus told his followers, all of them, to do before they could even begin to consider themselves to be Christians. Because Christian is what that word disciple means. You know that, don't you? Sorry, but I'm going to interrupt my own sermon here because I just spotted something that I never noticed when I first recorded the script for this video. When you get a chance, rewind back to 9 minutes and 50 seconds and have a good look at the whole page. I checked with our producers and this page was not put together by us. They took it from Truthunedited's own video. Have a look at the silhouette in the bottom left quarter. I'm so used to seeing that little silhouette used to represent me on this channel that I just assumed our producers put it in this one. But no, it was there in Truthunedited's video. That and the sand dune. He was having a direct shot at me, at this channel. So we are the many people who are teaching people to forsake all. And where did Truthunedited get that graphic? The one with a silhouette representing me and the words forsake all on it? He got it from the thumbnail of a guy who is obsessed with spreading hate towards virtually every preacher on YouTube, though he has been harsher in his criticisms of me than of any of those other preachers. We just call him Service Mammon. Truthunedited and Service Mammon are using the same graphic to have a pot shot at me. On the one hand, I'm flattered. On the other, I'm saddened that there apparently are not others who they were targeting for having taught people to forsake all for Christ. Like I've been saying from the start, no one is out there teaching people to obey Jesus, and they all attack anyone like me who does. Okay, so back to the original script. You see, I don't go looking for some backslidden, demon-possessed, heretical preacher to show you that rebellion against the teachings of Jesus is pandemic in the church world today. I hunt out the ones who come the closest to preaching obedience to Jesus. And then I show you how even they, even Truthunedited, with his announcement that you need to obey the commandments of Jesus if you love him, straight out tell people that there is something wrong with anyone who tells people to obey Jesus when he gives the most clear-cut, irrefutable description of what it means to be a Christian that appears in the entire Bible. Okay, so have I made my point? Check out Truthunedited's channel. Like I said, he's got some good stuff, but when you look at it closely, you will also see some very careful editing. And this editing is most obvious when it comes to obeying the real teachings of Jesus. And it doesn't just stop with forsaking all either, sad to say. There's a lot of poison out there, brothers and sisters, so beware. You cannot hide behind them. Each one of us will have to give an account for what we have done with the teachings of Jesus. So please, come humbly before the throne of God's grace with fear and trembling for what we have done with the teachings of his Son. God bless you.